I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the Israeli army destroys 2 terror tunnels in the Gaza Strip. 2 Israeli soldiers are killed in a terror attack over the weekend. And it looks like Leonardo Dicaprio is back in Israel, only this time it isn't for Bar Rafaeli. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Breaking news just now from Jerusalem. We've learned that there's been a stabbing attack in the Jewish quarter of the Old City. This has happened just moments ago, so the details are still coming in. But for now, it looks like this could be an attempted terror attack targeting an Israeli citizen. Initial reports on the ground say the suspect is actually a Turkish tourist in the country on a visitor's visa. The victim is said to be a civilian security guard. His condition is believed to be serious, and he's just been rushed to Hadassah Hospital on Mount Scopus. We do know that Israeli security forces have shot and killed the suspect at the scene of the attack. The dust is still settling here, but hopefully we'll have more details on the victim's condition soon. All right, we have some new developments amidst the growing tensions in Gaza. This morning, the IDF destroyed 2 tunnels in the coastal enclave that they believe Hamas has been using for terror activity. The first was an older tunnel crossing into Israel that the terror group was in the process of renovating, and the second was an underground complex underneath Gazan territory. These demolitions come just a few hours after the second significant exchange of fire between Gaza and Israel. Hamas has invested millions, if not billions, into building and maintaining these tunnels, a project that Israel says should obviously be reinvested into solving the humanitarian crisis in Gaza instead. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman has praised breakthrough new Israeli tech in detecting and demolishing these latest tunnels. This technology is at least partially related to the underground barrier the government has been installing in the buffer zone with Gaza since last year. This has given Israel a huge upper hand in recent months, destroying multiple terror tunnels. Meanwhile, the army is prepping additional roadblocks along the Gaza border. All of this is likely due to the ramping up of aggressions from the Gaza Strip, which has been on the rise in the last few weeks. Tragic news from the West Bank over the weekend. 2 IDF soldiers have just been killed by what appears to be a deliberate car ramming by a Palestinian driver. 2 other troops are also critically wounded, although thankfully one of them has just improved and is out of immediate danger. Captain Ziv Daos and Sergeant Netanel Kahalani have both been promoted in the wake of their tragic deaths. Their funerals will be held today and are expected to draw massive crowds as the country mourns alongside the family. Israeli security forces have named 26-year-old Ala Rateb Alatif Kabha as a suspect in this attack. Shortly after his interrogation, the Shin Bet announced that he did in fact confess to committing a terror attack. Numerous Israeli ministers have vowed to seek the death penalty for these crimes, despite the suspect's family's pleas that Kabha had no affiliation to any terror groups and their claim that the collision was an accident. Regardless, the IDF has already raided the family's home and revealed that Kabha had in fact already been jailed sometime last year due to security offenses. Investigators say this attack may have been a spontaneous spur-of-the-moment decision, but that he clearly accelerated his vehicle once he had IDF soldiers in his sights. In the wake of recent terror attacks, coalition Knesset members like Oded Forer are again pushing to push forward legislation to use the death penalty against terrorists. As of today, only 2 cases in modern Israeli history have ever ended with the death penalty. And joining me now in the studio to expand on this issue is Davidi Hermelin, the president of the International Center for Public Diplomacy in Israel, and the president and chair of the New Israel Fund, attorney Talia Sasson. All right, so let's begin with the wider question. Like we said, only 2 people in Israeli history have been sentenced to the death penalty. Why has Israel been so against the death penalty historically?
Myself, I was always against death penalty because I do think that the main obligation of any state is to save life and not to take them. But unfortunately, in recent times, I've changed my mind, because we had enough. And I think that in any case, when a terrorist comes and takes life of innocent civilians in their homes based on hate crime, I think that this person should not keep his life, and we have obligation to take them.
All right, what is your take?
I would say, in my opinion, this is unconstitutional. I think that the state is not allowed or not authorized to take a life of a person as a part of its penalty. Of course, you could give a penalty to horrible people and to put them in prison for life, but not to kill them. And and this is from a moral and legal point of view. Right. But from a security point of view, when I hear all the security organizations of the State of Israel who says that this would be a disaster, and a security point of view in Israel, this is something that, of course, convinced me, even I would have thought different than I do.
Well, I'd like to get into two different issues here. One is kind of the issue of what happens on the field in the military here. Couldn't this law end up being abused if there were to be the death penalty in place? Would we see more extrajudicial killings take place?
Of course, in my opinion. Well, it's not me. Who am I to say? This is the security authorities of Israel says. The IDF, the Shabak, the Mossad, all of them are against that. And why? Because they believe, not because of a moral position, they believe that it would cost life of Israelis. So why would we support that?
If I may. First of all, any constitutional rights are given to the citizens of the country and not to the enemies of the country who have tried to take the life of its citizens. This is first thing. So any constitutional debate about that is just not relevant. Put it in the side, please. Secondly, if we are talking about a wise policy, so any new law proposal about death penalty will not relate to, will not make any obligation of the courts to use the death penalty. But we would like to encourage the court to use this option in cases when the court will believe it's okay.
Do statistics show that the death penalty actually deters terrorism? Because especially here in the Middle East, we see a lot of cases of so-called martyrs who are already ready and willing to die.
Thank you for this question, because if it doesn't matter and if they will be motivated anyway, so at least for the good feeling of the victims, of the families of the victims, I think that even it's okay to talk about revenge. If we would like to revenge the death of someone who died just because he's Israeli or Jews by our enemies, so we have moral obligation at least to consider a death penalty.
Yeah. Well, I can't agree to that. Even if you make the revenge as something that we could respect, which I doubt. But I don't think that the revenge could make it a moral thing to take the life of a person. It's a matter of a philosophical position that if you are not, you think that the authority of a state is not authorized, is not allowed to take the life of a person, then you can't make it as if legal and as if we could respect that. We can't. I can't. But when you are talking about a security point of view, they say, the IDF and others, they say that people, the terrorists would capture simple Israelis from the street, and they will threaten to kill them if we won't release those people that we are going to kill them in our authority.
All right. So, well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I mean, we could go on about this topic all day long, for sure.
I think that we had enough, and enough is enough.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us and giving your respective opinions on this.
Thank you.
All right, even more explosions have just rocked the Israeli-Gaza border. Things escalated late last night when a bomb that was apparently targeting IDF soldiers exploded near the border. The army hasn't reported any casualties or injuries in the attack, but as always, they've launched a counterattack on Hamas military targets within the Strip. This is a second significant exchange of fire in the last few days between Hamas and Israel, and comes just a few days after another explosion inside the Strip nearly killed the visiting Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority. These escalations have triggered fears that things may quickly be destabilizing within Hamas's ranks inside Gaza. Others say the aggressions may be from outside terror cells attempting to thwart the ongoing Palestinian reconciliation deal with the PA. Israeli security officers speculate that Hamas has actually been trying to keep a lid on attacks like these in hopes of prolonging a momentary calm. But with attacks clearly beginning to spill over into Israel and Israel holding Hamas responsible, there may not be much calm in the weeks to come. All right, come on, admit it. We all get the urge to pet those adorable, fluffy police dogs as soon as we see them. But those canine officers actually have a very big job to do. Case in point, a police husky in Ben Gurion Airport just sniffed out a man trying to carry 200,000 euros in cash through customs. The nose knows, guys. The suspect is a 67-year-old diamond dealer. He first raised a few red flags when he walked through the nothing-to-declare zone in Ben Gurion Airport while talking on his cell. But it wasn't until after Officer Husky, as we'll call him, gave him a few sniffs that they realized the man was trying to carry literally a suitcase full of money straight past the gate. After a brief investigation, police determined the suspect had not obtained the money illegally. But trying to sneak in anything over 50,000 shekels in cash undeclared, on the other hand, is definitely a significant infraction. Large cash transfers through airports is still a major way for tax evaders to launder money and escape taxes. The suspect says the money was a cash advance on a diamond sale and that he merely forgot to declare the money on his way in. But thanks to Officer Husky and his amazing nose, he walked away with a hefty fine of 120,000 shekels. Nice try, guy. All right, sometimes it can feel like Israel's constantly on the brink of war. Those anxieties are especially true now, given the rampant instability in Syria lately, where the civil war is now entering its 8th deadly year. ILTV's Brett Allen Smith is here to discuss where the chips are at the moment and whether or not a new war is foreseeable.
Well, first of all, I just want to say here that the Middle East is always totally unpredictable, so I'm not quite foolish enough to think that anyone can ever really predict if or when, even ballpark-wise, a war might break out. Because like you said, sometimes all it takes is just a little spark here to topple all those dominoes and send the region into a war.
Sure. Well, let's talk about what's going on in Syria first, because lately that's where we've been seeing the biggest back and forth of force. I mean, just last month, things were getting really bad. That was when Syria actually shot down an Israeli F-16 jet, which was returning fire after an Iranian drone breached Israeli airspace.
Sure. I mean, Syria is definitely the biggest X factor in my opinion here, especially with the civil war heading into year 8, which is just awful. And on top of those gruesome, horrific things we see happening to the Syrian people, that chaos has allowed Iran to get a pretty significant foothold in the region, as we of course know. Now, sometimes it's right on Israel's doorstep even, and that whole situation has become a very dangerous proxy war for the US and Russia, but another player in the mix there is Hezbollah, and that's really where Israel might have a really big problem on their hands.
Speaking of Hezbollah, I know the deputy leader actually just commented on the possibility of an incoming war with Israel. Let's go ahead and play that soundbite.
Sure.
أنا أعبر بشكل واضح عن رؤية حزب الله بأنه جاهز ليتصدى للعدوان فيما لو حصل وفيما لو قررت إسرائيل أن تقوم بأي حماقة. لكن لا يبدو أن الظروف الآن هي ظروف قرار إسرائيلي بالحرب.
So it seems like, at least publicly, maybe Hezbollah isn't looking to engage right now, and according to them, neither is Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that actually. I mean, think about it. Think about what it would mean if Israel and Hezbollah did get dragged into a war now, because both sides have already threatened that this would have to involve civilian territories, which means the Lebanese army may or may not end up getting involved there. And Hezbollah is aligned with Assad, and that drags Syria into the mix maybe too. And Iran's already financing massive military projects in the region. But look, of course, it goes both ways here.
Of course, because let's not forget, the Israeli army is still a force to reckon with, too.
Sure, I wouldn't want to mess with them.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, Brett.
Of course.
Well, here's some news that will surprise absolutely no one here. Tel Aviv has just been named the 9th most expensive city in the world. That's right, we've been complaining for a reason. The city's cost of living is higher than heavyweights like Sydney, Australia, Los Angeles, and yeah, even New York City. The Worldwide Cost of Living Survey does this ranking every year, and Tel Aviv has been slowly inching up on the list for several years now.
But cracking the top 10 now means that Tel Aviv is officially the most expensive city in the entire Middle East, and even more expensive than almost all of the world's most metropolitan areas. Yeesh. The survey specifically calls out the punishing cost for owning a car in the city, which is almost 80% more expensive than it would be in New York. All of this is made worse by the fact that the average salary in Israel is less than half of the average income in the United States. The cost of living overall in Israel is also getting worse, compounded by the fluctuating strength of the shekel. Now, things have always been expensive in Tel Aviv, but never this expensive. For example, a loaf of bread costs about an average of $5.10 in Tel Aviv. 5 years ago, that same loaf of bread would have cost $4.44, and 10 years ago, under $3. So while coming in at number 9 may be a bit of a surprise to some, Israelis here are only shocked by one thing: that Tel Aviv wasn't named the number 1 most expensive.
Despite numerous aid and benefit programs, over 55% of the ultra-Orthodox community in Israel still lives below the poverty line. Well, the Israeli company It Works has taken up the challenge of teaching job skills to the Haredi community in hopes that one day that percentage will be 0. Joining me now in the studio with more is training coordinator Ayelet Binstock of the Family Advancement Program at It Works. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to define this issue first of all. Why is 55% of the Haredi community living in poverty?
Well, I'll divide it into 2 parts. The first part is a principal part, where the Haredi community likes to live in modesty, and modesty is a very big value there.
Right.
But other than that, there is a very big challenge to get into the workforce without academic studies, without the training that secular Jews or other communities in Israel get. And that's a very hard barrier to cross.
Especially when the focus is always on studying Torah, which is what you see obviously in the male community. All right, so tell me about the It Works programs. What do you guys offer, and how do the programs work?
Okay, so the Family Advancement Program, which is the one that I'm working in, actually focuses on 3 different aspects of the family. So first of all, like you said, is the employment issue, and how to get people who haven't worked for 10, 15 years into the job market to start taking their first steps and actually go up the ladder as much as they can. The second aspect is the finance part, to teach them how to manage a budget, how to reduce expenses, and how to plan ahead, because people in poverty tend to live day to day and not see the bigger picture, and
you need to save long term, right? All right, so this is very special. We're running out of time, but I do want to know, what are some of the kind of positive results?
There are amazing results in this program. We have people who finally got their raise from Bituach Leumi and managed to get stipends that, retroactive stipends that got minuses closed, debts organized, and started to build up their work. About 60% started working and entered the workforce, which is a huge deal.
Well, I'm imagining the emotional relief of being able to, support yourself and not have to worry about debts. I can't imagine how this has impacted families. Thank you so much for joining us. And for those who want to get in touch with It Works, you have a website?
We have a website, and we are actually raising funds to manage to get to more families than we do right now.
All right, so donate, all right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, it looks like Oscar-winning actor Leonardo Dicaprio is starting to work on a new project right here in the Holy Land. And no, it's not related to his previous romantic relationship with the Israeli supermodel Bar Rafaeli. Instead, he's making an environmentally friendly investment. And ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here with the story. Hi, Emmanuel.
Hi, Natasha. Well, like you said, award-winning actor and environmental activist Leo DiCaprio, as we know, is investing in a new eco-certified hotel that's going to be built in the Herzliya Marina. He's part investor and part partner in this huge project, and it's collaborating with the Israeli company Hagag Real Estate Development.
So, I mean, it's honestly not too shocking to hear that DiCaprio would be involved in a project like this, because he did found the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation 20 years ago, which focuses on some of the most pressing environmental issues, from climate change to wildlife and ocean conservation. So what makes this hotel stand out so much that he would be involved?
Well, actually, one really famous American architect, David Rockwell, is going to be designing it. So that's a huge project, that's very, That's very
It's a big
exciting
deal,
for us.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. The hotel itself includes 180 suites, or is set to include 180 suites across 2 6-story buildings with a pool in the middle. DiCaprio's main job, other than to promote it and bring in, you know, fun people around the world,
All
is
the ladies.
to yes, exactly, is to make sure that the hotel meets the highest environmental standards. And like I said, I'm sure promoting this hotel is not going to be that difficult.
Definitely not. I mean, I think every woman in this country is like, Leonardo
100%.
DiCaprio, where is he staying? Can
What
I go to
hotel?
that hotel?
Yeah, it could be just written the Leonardo DiCaprio hotel. People will come to
exactly.
it.
They should probably just name it that.
Exactly.
So, and it's funny though, because the only time people think about Leonardo DiCaprio in Israel, beyond obviously his amazing shows, are because of his relationship with Bar Rafaeli. For all of the Americans watching who didn't know this, but you know, she's married now, right?
She's married now. She has 2 kids.
She's not involved in
I'll
this.
take her personal tour with Leo DiCaprio. Don't worry about it, Bar.
All right, so getting back to the real business, obviously. I read a report that says a new hotel is set to be certified by LEED, which is otherwise known as Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Can you tell us about that?
They focus on global recognized symbol. Like, they're a global recognized symbol of commitment to environmental responsibility, which kind of basically means, like, when they certify it, means that all the environmental activists can relax and be like, okay, we know that they really did all they needed to do. They met the environmental standards. It helps build framework for creating efficient and cost-saving green buildings.
Right, and this is a big deal also because the tourism industry, from what I understand, has a very negative impact on the environment. And in Israel, we have more tourists than ever. I mean, the numbers are going up every year. But just think about how much hot water, energy that hotels are wasting just dealing with cleaning sheets, washing dishes for, you know, hundreds to thousands of people.
Yeah, there's also a lot of different ways. You know, I've been to a hotel in Key West in the United States, in Florida, where the lights turn off automatically when you leave the room, or the air conditioning turns off automatically when you leave the balcony door open. So there's little things that can help in big ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's really necessary in Israel, a tiny little country that already...
Definitely. I mean, look at the view. I mean, it's going to be gorgeous.
All right, guys, the new place you should stay. Thanks for joining us, Emmanuel.
Thank you so much.
All right, for the first time ever, 2 never-before-seen Dead Sea Scrolls are about to be unveiled to the public in an exciting new exhibition in Denver, Colorado. Visitors can also expect to see hundreds of incredible artifacts, along with 20 ancient Dead Sea Scrolls. But make sure to get a head start because the exhibit will only be open for a limited amount of time.
The Dead Sea Scrolls contain the earliest known writings in ancient Hebrew that make up parts of the modern-day Hebrew Bible. In fact, they're very possibly considered the most important archaeological find of the 20th century. The Israel Antiquities Authority usually houses them here in Israel, but does occasionally bring the scrolls on tour around the world. This new exhibit in Denver will be a major first because it unveils 2 never-before-seen scrolls to the public. The first scrolls contain details on how to banish impurity, and the second outlines ways to maintain a sort of inner spiritual purity. The repetition of the Hebrew phrase Raz Niyeh has historians a bit puzzled, since some translate that to mean the secret of existence, and others say it may indicate the coming apocalypse. The scrolls must be kept in incredibly precise conditions in order to preserve them, and that's why only the first 10 scrolls will be shown in the exhibit for the first 3 months, and then be sent back to Israel. That's so that they can be switched out with the second set of 10 for the last 3 months. So better grab your tickets fast. This can only be seen at the Denver Museum of Science and Nature, and only for a short time.
And now it's time for our Hebrew word of the day. Well, thanks to good old-fashioned diplomacy, Israelis flying to India are about to shave a whole 2 hours off of their flights with Air India. So today's word is kitsul, which means shortcut. Finding a kitsul, or a shortcut, is usually an awesome thing, right? I mean, imagine finding a 20-minute kitsul during your commute from work, or even a nice little kitsul that makes filing your taxes 100% simpler. If only. But not every kitsul is a good thing if it cheats you out of doing the job right. Remember, guys, no matter how attractive that kitsul may seem, sometimes the journey is actually more important than the destination. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be mostly clear with a warm low of about 62 or 17 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow is expected to be mostly sunny and warm again with a high of roughly 85 or 29 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.46 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.